self-love, and your love languages. I was on Twitter recently when I saw this tweet by someone who was asking if you know how to love yourself in your own love language. And I totally love this idea, and I decided to make a video all about it today. So if you are curious about how to use your love languages to love yourself even more, then today's video is for you, so stay tuned. What's up, beautiful friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. I am a spiritual life and business coach. Welcome aboard, my fellow conscious creators. I know that if you are here, you are interested in massively up-leveling your life through the arts of mindset and manifestation. So I'd love to welcome you aboard, whether this is your first time or your 15th time. If you are new here, go ahead and jump back into the old content. I have tons of other videos for you to watch, and all of them are with the same intent, basically to help you become a more happy, more fully embodied version of you. If you are ready to take your manifestation practice to the next level, there are two different ways I can help you to do exactly that. First off, you can come and work with me one-on-one in a private hypno manifestation coaching package. This is where I hold your hand through 67 days of transformation, and we're going to go deep in and reorganize your brain so you can stop manifesting the same problems and start manifesting solutions. So that is one way I can help you. And the second way I can help you is through my brand new monthly program. If you are looking for manifestation coaching in a monthly package, if you are looking for hypnosis manifestations to listen to on the go, this is the place for you. I'm going to do two things for you. I'm going to help you go deep into reprogramming your mind through lessons and masterclasses, as well as give you access to a library of hypnosis that you can listen to anytime, every day, to start rewiring your mind to attract what you want. You can go ahead and check out the links for both of those things below. And with that all being said, let's dive into today's topic. So as I said at the top, I came across this tweet on Twitter right here, and it really inspired me to put together this lesson for you today. When I talk about my favorite spiritual and personal development books, the 5 Love Languages book by Gary Chapman is always way up there. When I read this book, this really kicked off a way for me to really reimagine and reevaluate my friendships. So before we get into the topic that I really want to talk about today, let's recap the love languages stuff a little bit. And so in case you haven't read that book, I'm just going to recap it a little bit for you quickly. But basically, this book was created to help kind of bridge the gap that often happens between us and our romantic partners in particular. But really, this stuff can apply to basically all of your relationships. So Gary Chapman posits in this book that we all have our own love languages. We all have a way that we like to experience love, a way that we want to be loved that is unique to us. So there are basically 5 love languages, and knowing which ones that you value the most and which ones that your partner values the most will help to bridge the gap that is sometimes in between us. For example, if your love language is words of affirmation, like you want to hear the words "I love you" all the time, but your partner is trying to love you by doing acts of service, by doing the laundry, by taking out the garbage, there might be a big disconnect between you two. So one person is trying to love you in one way, but the way the other person wants to be loved, it is not being received. So this can create all kinds of drama and conflict within our relationships. Basically, when I read this book, it opened my eyes to seeing love in all kinds of different ways. And I really try to think about this stuff in terms of even my friendships, because of course we all have different priorities. We were all raised differently, and the things that we find personally important are not always important to everybody else. So one of mine, for example, is I always rate gifts at the very bottom of my list. And to some people, gifts are a super important thing, but to me, they are not so important. To me, like, actually most of the time I'm not really into gifts at all. But I have to understand that to some people in my world, gifts are very important. So I need to take the time to have a gift, to create a gift for those special people in my life, because I want them to feel loved and respected by me. that's just an example of how understanding love languages can open up so much for yourself. So before I get into how we can start to apply this to talking about ourselves, why don't I recap first what the 5 love languages are? So I already kind of touched on these a little bit, but let's get into them more specifically. So the first one I'm going to start with today is words of affirmation. So words of affirmation, that is actually one of my personal favorites. But this is basically words like, I love you, I appreciate you, you are so hot, you are so smart, you are so this, you are so that. Some of us really crave that validation. So perhaps you grew up in a home where your parents gave you that validation. So even though that you didn't consciously go out into the world thinking, I need to get this because my parents gave it to me, that is basically what your subconscious brain is doing. When you were a child, you were told over and over again that you were smart or you were pretty or whatever, or that you were loved. So some part of your brain is associating that behavior with your loving relationships. That means if you go out off into the world and you meet somebody whose love language is not words of affirmation, you might be a little confused. Like, does this person actually love me? I really want them to tell me that they love me and they're never doing it. So before I get any farther onto this, I have to say that understanding what your love languages are and understanding your partner's love languages, that's just the beginning point. You still need to kind of negotiate yourself in between the two things. But really, to me, I find that this framework is hugely helpful because we all tend to get like tunnel vision about how people should think and should behave, and we expect everyone to value the same things and want the same things that we do. So love languages are really just a way to remind us that not everybody has the same experiences, not everybody experienced love the same way as a child, and not everyone wants love in the same ways as an adult. So the first step is to understand the love language. The second step, of course, is to actually negotiate and apply it to your life. So that is key to know as we go through all of this. But yes, the first love language is words of affirmation. So I want you to think about that. How does that apply to your own world? As I go through these, I challenge you to think about which ones of these 5 values are more important to you. Which ones do you crave? Which ones do you feel lack in your life right now or in your relationships right now? This is going to help to give you a blueprint. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers. This is all just information gathering about the unique person that is you and the unique person that is your partner or your friend or whoever else in your life. Okay, the second one I wanted to talk about today is gifts. So I already kind of mentioned this. To me, this is bottom of the barrel stuff, but to some people it is so important. So perhaps you are that person that really just appreciates it when your partner comes home out of the blue with something special for you, even something little like, you know, your favorite chocolate bar or, you know, a magazine that they saw that they thought that you would like, something like that. If this is the kind of thing that really lights you up and that you really crave, then gifts are part of your love language. So again, I'm bringing these up for you to think about in regards to yourself, but also to think about in regards to the other people in your world. So maybe your partner is somebody that appreciates gifts, and maybe it's been a little while since you've given them a gift. So if you start to think about this stuff and you start to notice these behaviors, you can start to kind of play around with this and see what people respond to. Wanting gifts doesn't mean that we're materialistic or greedy or anything like that. Like I said, this can be a small gesture, but sometimes people really just appreciate that gesture and they really want to have that feel like you thought about them and did something special for them in this way. So again, think about this for yourself. It is okay to admit that you want gifts. It is completely okay to admit that. So lean into it if this is ringing true for you. And again, think about your partner, think about your best friend, think about the other people in your life, and try to figure out whether or not you think gifts are part of their love language. Okay, number 3 of the 5 love languages is quality time. This one is super important to me. I want one-on-one quality time with my friends or with my partner or with whoever it is in my life. I really value those heart-to-heart conversations. I really love being in somebody's presence, even if it's like not doing anything in particular. just chatting and talking and having that connection. That is so important to me personally, and maybe it's important to you as well. The meaning of quality time, of course, will differ from person to person. For somebody, that might mean I really want to sit on the couch next to my partner and watch Netflix. To somebody else, that might mean I really want to go out for dinner and talk for hours and hours and hours. But any of these things are important to understand. Again, first, importantly, to understand it about yourself. And second, it's important to understand if that is something that your partner is craving. Of course, our romantic relationships are dependent on both people feeling acknowledged and feeling secure and feeling loved. So we need to understand what these love languages are to maybe start to see where maybe things aren't lining up and see how we can challenge ourselves to become a better match for the people that are important to us. So again, is quality time important to you? Is it important to your partner? Of course, the best way to figure that out, I guess, is to ask them specifically. But if you can't do that, or if you want to kind of figure it out on your own, just start to notice the times where you feel connected and where that person feels connected. It is so important to understand this, again, for everybody in your life. So this is a huge one to become aware of. Okay, love language number 4 is physical touch. So physical touch, of course, can be everything sexual. It could be just kissing. It could be hand holding. It could be snuggling in bed. All of these things could be hugely important to you in your relationship. But because physical touch can mean so many different things, I challenge you to think about what physical touch you really want, what you really crave, and what you really value. And again, also to contrast and compare that to your partner if you have one. What kinds of activities do they want? Maybe they want to snuggle you every night when you're going to sleep and you hate snuggling before you fall asleep. Try to figure out where the disconnect might be and try to figure out how you can start to meet your partner in the middle. Again, the first step is to realize what your needs are and what your values are. But the second is also to figure out where our partner is and to meet them there and to make them feel like their needs are met. Does your partner crave physical touch in a different way than you, or in the same way as you? We're not just looking for the differences, we're also looking for the things that we're doing correctly. But it's just important to think about all of these love languages, because if you're like me, reading this again, it's not like I felt like I was neglecting my partners in the past in any specific way, but looking at this chart, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see how some people value different things than I did. And at the time, I didn't have the ability to speak about this in the same way. So super valuable. Again, awareness of yourself and awareness of your partner. What physical attention do they need? How important is it to them? If it's not important to them and it's really important to you, how can you bridge that gap? So this is all super important stuff, obviously, especially in romantic relationships. But again, it could apply to maybe other parts of your life as well. And I'm going to get again into the self-work stuff in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the 5th and final love language. And this is acts of service. So acts of service are just, the act of doing something nice for somebody, like maybe going and filling their car up with gas before they go to work. Maybe that is baking something for them. Maybe that is, doing the laundry, doing something for them within the home if you have a domestic partnership. That could be all kinds of different things. So again, it's really important to understand that this stuff, people doing something for you in the house, isn't always just about someone doing the chores. So maybe somebody is doing the dishes and thinking that that is counting to you as a sign of love, but to you it's like it's chores and it's like, who cares, it doesn't matter. So that partner that thinks that they're doing an act of service for you is going to feel very undervalued and underappreciated. So yeah, of course you could get into the whole male-female domestic partnership divvying up of chores thing, but that isn't really what this is supposed to be about. This is supposed to be about understanding that sometimes the things that people are doing, they might not register as something romantic to you, but that person might be doing it to show you their love, like buying all the groceries and making dinner. Something like that can be very easily taken for granted on either side. So think about what you need and think about how you show love, because it works the other way as well. Maybe your partner is feeling undervalued and underappreciated and you're like, I make you dinner every single night of the week. How can you feel like that? So it is really, again, important for both parties to understand all of these love languages so that we can understand that somebody is doing something nice for us in an attempt to show us that they love us. So think about this one as well when it comes to yourself. Do you value acts of service? Or do you like to give acts of service? This is a big one for me to understand personally. I grew up watching my mom do acts of service, so that is the way that I was kind of taught to love, and I have learned the kind of hard way that not everybody sees it like that. So maybe you have a similar experience. Maybe you grew up watching your parents, one parent do acts of service for the other one, and you have internalized that as this is the way that I should act to show people I love them. But again, this does not automatically show that person that we love them. That person needs to be open to this. They need to understand that it is an act of love, that this is showing love in a certain way. And if they don't see it that way, they might be feeling neglected in the relationship and leaving a very huge disconnect between you two. So again, it's super important to become aware of that. Do you value doing this for people? Do you value having this done for you? Does someone in your world do acts of service for you that you are not appreciating, or maybe you appreciate them very much and want them to do more? Really important questions to ask yourself and to become aware of no matter what kind of relationship you are in. So those were the 5 love languages. Again, to recap, that was words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. Okay, so I told you to start to keep track and start to think about which ones are most important to you. If you've never done this work before, this is the perfect starting point. Maybe pause the video right now and think about it. What is your main love language? What are your main 2 love languages? And if you are in a romantic partnership in particular, what do you think your partner's love language is? Or partner's 2 or 3 main love languages are? It is, again, never right or wrong. And this isn't about trying to get someone to change their love languages to match what ours are or what we think theirs should be. But this is about, again, just noticing where we are and learning how to show up for the people that we love and respect and admire in the way that they can feel the most. So that's my little recap about love languages. Again, if you've never read this book, Life Changer, go read it right now. I'll leave a link for that as well below. But let's take this now into the personal development world and start to think about how we can use this knowledge to love ourselves. Again, I saw this first on Twitter. Very jealous that I didn't come up with this idea myself. I'll leave a link to that tweet below as well, because I like to give credit where credit is due. But in the personal development world, we talk about loving ourselves, self-love all the time. And sometimes the stuff that we talk about as examples of self-love can be a little bit derivative and repetitive and not really deep enough. So the classic example is always like taking a bubble bath. And of course, there's nothing wrong with taking a bubble bath. I love myself a hot bath, and a hot bath can do me a world of good, but hot baths are not my only self-care, and they should not be your only self-care either. One of the best ways we can create self-care for ourselves is by learning how to manage ourselves. So I always say this, like, it's not like we were born with a how-to manual, a how to operate Jen manual, a how to operate whoever might be watching this video manual. So you kind of have to figure it out yourself. But understanding your own unique twists and turns, understanding your triggers, understanding the ways that you can make yourself feel better when you're feeling down, all of this stuff is super important. It's like we need this little invisible toolkit of information that we can then refer to anytime things start to get a little bit shaky, or we start to feel down or lose confidence in ourselves for whatever reason. So now I'm going to challenge you to take these ideas and start to apply them to your own self-love toolkit. And again, let's go through them one more time. So the first one, words of affirmation. When was the last time you gave yourself a little self-loving pep talk? I know that when people think of personal development, people tend to think of somebody like writing "I love you" on the mirror in lipstick, or saying affirmations to themselves, and maybe they make fun of that kind of sentiment. But honestly, this kind of stuff is truly, truly, you guys, life-changing. I know that it sounds insane, But really think about that for a moment. Most of us have this very loud soundtrack in here of the inner mean guy or the inner mean girl, and that voice is extremely critical all the time. That's the voice that is telling you, oh, you're so stupid, oh, you're so lazy, oh, you're too old, oh, you're too fat, oh, you're too this, oh, you're too that, all day long. And we all have one of these voices, you guys. It's not accurate reflection of you. The thing is, we don't even think about that voice most of the time. We let that voice run all over the place, being completely mean, being completely overbearing, and putting us in a terrible mood and ruining our self-confidence day in and day out. Yet, how often do we spend time in our day talking ourselves up, telling ourselves we're good, that we're smart, that we're funny, that we're successful? When was the last time you spent any time obsessing on that stuff? Instead, we always obsess on the bad stuff, and we think that we need to do that to motivate ourselves. I would love to challenge you to take even just 1 minute a day, 1 minute, you guys, 1 minute a day to sit and think amazing thoughts about yourself. In fact, the more that you are resisting this idea, the more that you need it. Thinking poorly about ourselves is a bad habit, and sometimes you need to take action. You need to sit yourself down and give yourself the good thoughts. Starting to rewire your brain little by little over time, it is going to start to loosen up the engine of good thoughts until we can finally kind of cycle more easily into that. It's going to feel weird at first. It's going to feel rusty. It's going to feel like you're being completely silly and stupid. But again, the more you resist this, the more you need it. And maybe you can't do words of affirmations out loud. Maybe you want to do journaling. Maybe you want to write out something on your laptop. Whatever you want to do for yourself, I just really challenge you to think about that. If words of affirmation are important to you in your romantic relationships, why don't you make them a priority for you? If you know that that is the stuff you need to hear, then why don't we start to give it to ourselves? That's not to say that we're not going to want it also from our romantic relationships, but you can give yourself every single thing that you think you need in someone else. And in fact, the more that you start to do that, the more powerful you become, because you don't need anyone else in your world. You don't need validation. You don't need someone to make you feel good. In fact, you should never need anyone to make you feel good. You should be able to do that all in here. So that is one thing to think about, especially if words of affirmations are super important to you. The second one was gifts. So gifts are pretty explanatory when it comes to our partnerships. That would be buying, roses for your partner or chocolates or whatever the gift might be. But what about buying a gift for yourself? So of course this can be a little bit tricky because maybe money is a concern and maybe you can't go out and buy yourself something really nice all the time. But if gifts, again, are important in your romantic relationships, I would just challenge you to think about like a gift that you gave yourself. When was the last time you let yourself indulge in something really nice? So for example, maybe you really love clothes, but your wardrobe is full of stuff from fast fashion like H&M or whatever. Maybe what you're really craving is just like one really nice thing from a nicer clothing brand. Well, maybe challenge yourself to aim for that as a goal. So instead of buying yourself a new shirt every month at H&M, put away that money that you would spend for 3 months or 4 months or whatever and go and buy one really nice thing. So we can create gifts for ourselves. We can let ourselves indulge this part of ourselves. We can do the whole gifting experience for ourselves and make ourselves feel special. We do not have to spend a lot of money to do that. I definitely would not recommend you going out and maxing out your Visa in order to buy yourself a gift or anything like that. But I want you to think again about what you would crave from a partner and start to think about how you can give that to yourself. Maybe you buy yourself the little chocolate bar at the store once in a while. Maybe you buy yourself that weekly bouquet of roses. Whatever it is, think about how you can bring that into your world. You deserve it and you can give it to yourself. So if this is your love language, if this is your primary love language, why don't you think on how you can create gifts for yourself in your everyday life? Okay, the third one is quality time. So quality time, again, that's easy to think of when it comes to a partner. That's going out for a long dinner date or a long coffee date or a long walk even, and spending lots of time catching up on each other's lives, or talking heart to hearts, or maybe that involves sitting in front of the TV doing nothing, eating popcorn together. Whatever quality time might be for you. In a partnership, now I'm going to challenge you to think about that for yourself. Do you like to go and spend lots of time talking to your partner? Well, when is the last time you kind of had that relationship with yourself? So this sounds a little nutty at first, but I would challenge you to think about this. Again, we're currently on lockdown here in Germany, but maybe this involves you going to a cafe with your journal and just sitting down and journaling with no real direction, nothing on the to-do list, just you, your thoughts, letting things bubble to the surface, letting yourself just kind of ruminate and going wherever your brain wants to go. This is kind of super indulgent, we think, but it is actually super, super important, and it can be so illuminating. Most of us are filling up our brain all day long with stuff from Facebook, with stuff from the news, with the latest this, the latest that, and we never give our brain a chance to process and to problem solve. So you might not think that going to a cafe with a notepad or your laptop and no no internet stuff, no Facebook, none of that stuff, and just letting yourself kind of sit, create, write. You might not think that that is an important thing to do, but it might just be the most important thing that you do for yourself all week. So maybe it's not going to a cafe for you. Maybe it is going for a really long walk without a phone or without listening to a podcast or music or anything like that. What can you do for quality time with you? Spending time with you, spending time with your brain, not running away from what's in here, but letting what's in here speak to you. When is the last time you did that? When is the last time you processed your emotions and just left free time for thinking? Free time for thinking is one of the most valuable things you can ever do for yourself. Maybe it's just taking 20 minutes, setting a timer and laying on your bed, doing nothing, not napping, not meditating, just doing nothing and letting your brain just do its thing. Quality time is a true gift. And again, if any of these love languages resonated as really important for you in a relationship, I would really start to challenge how you can bring that element into your own world. Doing it for yourself, giving it to yourself, being it for yourself. How can you do that for you? Okay, the fourth one is a physical touch. I know what you all are thinking, and it could definitely be that. But how can you bring physical touch into your world? So yes, of course, solo me time. You can definitely go ahead and do that. But I would also recommend just thinking about how you can indulge physical senses. So maybe that's taking the hot bath. Maybe that's going for a sauna or a special yoga session that you don't have time to do very often. Maybe that is time for you to upgrade the things that you are around a lot. So stuff that's on your bed, stuff that's on your sofa. How can you make your home experience and your self experience more comfortable? How can you upgrade that? How can you indulge that a little bit? So yes, physical touch might be a little bit of a weird thing to think about, but this could be anything regarding your body. This could be giving yourself a spa day. This could be, taking that real time, that chunk of time for yourself once a week to do skin stuff, hair stuff, whatever is important to you. Maybe that is booking a massage every week. Maybe that is getting your nails done. Whatever feels good for you. Again, if you value physical touch as being really important in your outer relationships, I would challenge you to think about how you can make physical touch a priority in your own relationship, your personal relationship. How can you put this in your calendar? How can you make this a priority in your week or your day? So that is a super important one to think about as well, and a little bit challenging, gets you out of the box a little bit. Okay, the final love language is acts of service. Again, this is easy to think about when it comes to a partner. It is easy to think about, I'm going to go home and make dinner for my partner because I love and appreciate him. Maybe it is not so easy to think the same thoughts about yourself. Maybe it is much easier for you to go grab a bagel on the way home and eat it on the sofa and follow that up with a pint of ice cream. So I would challenge you, especially if you are single and especially if you are indulging in bad girl, bad boy, single behavior. If there is something you would be doing differently in a relationship to show your love, to show your appreciation to this other person, why aren't you doing it for yourself? That doesn't mean you need to go home and cook yourself a dinner every night, But what if you did that one night a week? What if you let yourself be that cook just for you? Why do we think we need to have this other person around to show love to? If this is the way that you show love, I challenge you to start showing it to yourself. So yes, cooking a homemade meal, that is one way. Maybe it is just making sure that you have, things done for yourself Monday morning so you're off to a great start. What would you do for a partner? What would be an act of service for a partner? Or what would you want a partner to do for you? And how can you do that for yourself? Filling up your own gas tank before you go to work on Monday, laying out your clothes at night, just doing something that'll make your day go a little bit easier or make you feel a little bit more loved and appreciated. Again, especially if you are a single person living on your own, it's easy to cut corners with this stuff and to pretend that you don't deserve it. Because I live alone, I'm not gonna cook. Because I live alone, I'm just gonna, let my laundry pile up, even though it drives me crazy to look at it. Whatever it is, I, again, would challenge you to give that best behavior to you, especially if this is important to you in your romantic relationships. Why isn't it important to you in your self-love relationship? Ultimately, with any of these, your self-love relationship should be your primary relationship. As I always say, we are the only ones at the beginning of this journey and at the end. The most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself. So the more that you can learn to love yourself well, the better off you will be. Culturally, we all tend to do this. We all tend to expect other people to love us the way we need to be loved. But I guarantee you, learning these love languages and learning to give them to yourself is so transformative. It just gives you practice alone, feeling that you are deserving of these things. And it also frees you from having to have some person out there that acts in a certain way for you to feel good, because FYI, that never works. We need to learn how to become self-sufficient, and if you cannot learn how to love yourself fully, then you are not fully self-sufficient. So I hope that this training today inspired you to think about your own self-love practice in a new way. Again, the most important thing at the end of the day is to learn to listen and to learn to honor, first with ourselves and then with the important people in our world. It is up to you to make this journey as happy as possible, and you can do so much for yourself. And if you're not doing this, why not, you guys? It is time for us to love ourselves. We deserve it. So that's what I have for you today. If you found this video today, there are no coincidences. There was an important message for you to learn here today, and I would love to know which message resonated the most with you. So if you feel like sharing, go ahead and drop me a comment below. I read every single one of them, and I really do cherish you and appreciate you for spending time here on this channel with me. If you like this, give it a like. If you want to learn more, come over to the site. I also have a free manifestation planner for you to download over there. So come on over and grab yours. And other than that, I'll be back in the next week's training. So until then, happy manifestations, love yourselves, and I will see you very soon.